think
it
so.
says go. Where are we supposed to go?
What are we supposed to say?
Here we are.
Here we are.
We decided
I get noted for the record.
I guess we didn't tell Tim that we do this kind of nonsense before we actually start.
I think Tim kind of knows that we're all a bunch of nonsense. It's 2 minutes before 8. I find regularly, and I'm going to get excoriated for this, but our friends at Opposing Bases, I think that they have a thing where they like to come on at like 3 or 4 minutes past their prescribed time. I think they like to build anticipation.
Well, they're just stylishly late. I mean, that's what they did at Oshkosh. They were an hour late, so Yeah. Well,
okay.
But no energy. What is that?
So I don't know if you heard a couple episodes ago, but when we went live, I was really laughing very hard.
That was last week, yeah.
And that was because of, now Tim, you understand why I was laughing. Little private message. Hello, Zach Powell. Welcome, Richard. Glad you're with us. Chuck.
Yeah.
Had Chuck. A nice dinner and beers with Lord Alpha. Got some scoop. So Sunday.
Oh, nice.
Was today Monday?
Yeah.
Yes, Sunday.
Yesterday. Yeah.
I think it was. I don't know.
What's it like when he orders food? Is he very particular? Or?
Nope. Well, it's always the place we always go to. We're always getting chicken wings. He may be particular. I can't rule it out based on what we ordered because we get the same thing every time.
Yeah. All right. Well.
All right.
Yeah, we're gonna get rolling early on this because we're gonna be here for a while. So.
Yep.
There we go.
Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. What is it like to become a pilot in midlife? The challenges are unique, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences. You definitely should not take any advice too seriously from an aviation podcast that uses terms like icing on the vegetables. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello and welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast, where we share the experiences and challenges of flying in midlife. Whether you're a seasoned pilot, training for a rating, or just thinking about getting your started in aviation, we like to think of the podcast as your aviation companion and your weekly dose of aviation inspiration. Tonight's episode, we're going to be going down the creativity road and midlifers being creative. My name is Ben, and I am a pilot with an IFR rating and a commercial certificate based in the metro Atlanta Rainy area. I fly an airplane. It's a Cessna 182 called a Beast, as opposed to flying other types of objects. Joining me tonight is always, it's my friend. He's a private pilot in Nashville, which is home of the Bachelorette Super Charlie. He flies a Cherokee 180 named Lucy. Good evening, sir. Brian Siskin.
What's up? Every time you say private pilot, I always think it almost sounds like a pilot that wants to be discreet about the fact that he's a pilot, which is just not even an existing thing. So anyway, every time you say that, I kind of crack up.
I kind of say it in the manner of like your private, like, you know, you have your private plane, you have your private house, you have your, you know. Also joining us tonight, as always, it's our sport pilot extraordinaire. He's based in Portlandia. He flies a flight design CTLS. We like to call it the Egg. It's our friend and everybody's friend, Ted. How you doing, sir?
Hey there. I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you here.
I landed yesterday and it was 100 degrees at 5 p.m. So I've caught up to the rest of the country on weather.
Welcome.
Well, and now it's in the mid 80s and raining for the next 6 months for us. Feels like we're in the wet season. You know what? We got a special guest with us tonight. His name is Lien. He is also known as the Banjo Pilot. He's based out of Minneapolis. He's in a club with 6 low-wing airplanes, but we will not hold that against him. Tim, good evening. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to having a conversation tonight.
Very good. Now, we told everybody else their ratings. Can you share which ratings certs you have?
I'm a private pilot, and I'm paused on working on my instrument rating because my CFI moved to the Congo to go fly caravans out there. So I can't hold it against him. But
How dare you?
if you know any good double I's in the area,
Yeah.
I need to get going again.
Well, we've got a lot of folks in the community up that way. I'm sure we can come up with some suggestions for you and totally get it. So tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about the creative minds of midlifers. Is that a fair assessment, Brian?
Yeah, just the link between creativity, the observed phenomena of the link between creativity and midlife pilots, because we have a whole creativity channel in our Discord.
Yeah.
And you see, and this doesn't mean everybody's some deep artist. It just means that we have so many makers and creatives, and there's so many interesting things going on. And we just thought we should devote an episode to talking about that, because I think there's some interesting correlations to just what it is to be a pilot and creativity and being an artist or a creative or a maker. And that's why we wanted to have Tim, to have you on, Tim, is because you're sort of a multifaceted artist and maker, and obviously a pilot, even though your CFI abandoned you. And so
we won't
I just
read
think
into
it's really
that at
cool.
all.
I think it's gonna be a really cool topic. I hope that people stick around for it, because a lot of people say I'm not creative, and that's wrong. Every pilot is creative somehow.
So, we can, I would love to do a personal flying recap. I got to tell you, I haven't been in the plane. Well, I went up as a safety pilot. I am flying this week. So there's not a whole lot much going on there, but, what do we decide? Are we going to go straight into the belly scrubbing and then talk about creativity, or do we want to hit some more flying recap between you guys?
Well, my recap is not very much because I haven't flown, but I'll tell you one thing, and this aligns with what Tim was talking about, which is I've been back and forth, pausing, starting, chipping away, doing whatever I can possibly do to get my instrument rating done. And this is a long, woeful, painful topic that we keep returning to for at least me. But one thing that I did this week and put some time into, thanks to our friend of the show, Erica Gilbert and Gilbert Aviation. She's got a great IFR course that's an 8-week live video class course that prepares, it'll give you the endorsement for the written, and, a little bit of a collaborative environment, I think, would do me some good. I think that what was stopping me was being in my own head too much, and just not having when you're diving out to ask people questions and then kind of going back in, you kind of lose track and you lose momentum. And so, and I know that there's others in the community that are joining in this next session that starts up on, I don't know, a date soon. And so, anyway, check out gilbertaviation.com. We always want to give her a plug because she's been so kind to us, and I think that she's helping some people out to get in that class. So if you're even on the edge of it, please jump in. And if I'll be able to tell you in 8 weeks, if it got me through to actually pass, because my problem is I'm a creative, I'm an artist. My brain, the instrument coursework is the opposite of whatever's required to be an artist, I think. I mean, some people might argue that. We'll get into that later, but that's my flying recap, is that I'm buckling down on getting my instrument written done by early November, mid-November, and then that'll be setting the clock, and honestly, I've chipped away at some of the requirements for sure. I mean, so I'm not that far, really.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Ted posted a couple of videos, and we won't dwell on this too long, but it was funny to me. Go check out his YouTube channel, Fly Sport. Ted, in the very first one that I saw,
Well, the other one isn't public, so
yeah, the one that I saw that was public is how you make this. You're flying amongst these incredible mountains.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely good. And then he says, or he does a voiceover, and he says, I happen to notice this over here, and I thought it was really pretty. And I'm thinking, everywhere you are is very, very pretty. If you're noticing something different, then it must be the Garden of Eden. I don't know, but it was quite spectacular.
Yeah. It was some of the, I don't know, most interesting flying I've done to fly right between two mountains and over a lake, and
The winds
everything
weren't too bad, I'm assuming.
No, otherwise I wouldn't have been there. But
Yeah,
it was very much reach out and touch it. And there's some great moments of staring at a wall of a mountain before I turn into it, sort of views. So
No.
it was a great weekend of flying. I was just doing stamp collection stuff, and but I had to be careful because it's hot and I was going up in the mountains, and so I reordered where I landed first, so that I got the riskiest flights done, or riskiest landings done first. But it was still like tailwind, downhill, grass, high density altitude. So it's taken a lot of learning to get to the point that I can navigate that and understand the risks and handle it. So
Nice.
There's also the idea that you want to stay close to the edge. When you're in that canyon, it's so tempting to try to equidistantly space yourself, but that's typically not what you should be doing. Or, there's a lot of things that are interesting about that kind of flying you were doing that I've only touched on. That's really, it was stunning stuff, man. Your green screen is pro quality.
Yeah.
I do have one more question. So here in the Southeast, we have these things. They don't have transponders on them, but they're called turkey vultures.
Oh, jeez.
They're slightly smaller than the egg, but not much smaller. And you can be co-altitude with them at 3,000, even 4,000 feet. Now, I know you're at a much higher elevation, but is that, do you get any large birds in there? I mean, is that something you have to keep your eye out for?
We get eagles and some hawks. They seem to be around airports more than anything else. So,
but not like in the out. So when you're out there looking around, you're out there in the mountains. You don't probably have very much out there, do you?
there was actually one not far off from when I recorded that video where it's like, oh, bird, let me duck to avoid that one.
So it does exist out there then.
Yeah. I will tell you, I wasn't going in it anyway, but there's a canyon, and it was like, hey, be careful. There's cables horizontal and vertical across this canyon. And I went back home and looked it up and figured out why. It's a low frequency radio transmission. So it's a mile across the canyon and then vertically a mile. And it's a whole bunch of lines like that. It's like, oh, I do not want to fly into that. It's like flying into a spider web. So I was very curious what it was. I was happy to figure that out. So, yeah.
Not the hard way, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You figured it out the easy way.
Have you done any flying last week, Tim?
I did get a interesting flight in. It's nice when you have a mission, right? And my mission last week was my mom is a very avid quilter, and we're talking like she's doing it in 10 to 12 hours a day.
Feeling the pressure of this already, by the way, Tim.
Oh, I know.
This is intense.
This is my whole life.
Okay.
So she enters her quilts in the state fair, the Minnesota State Fair. If you haven't been, biggest state fair in the country. She enters a few of her quilts every year, but she lives in southern Minnesota, about an hour and a half drive from the Twin Cities where I am. So I just flew down to little farmland, Waseca, Minnesota, and picked up her quilts, wove my way into the pattern with some crop dusters, and grabbed her quilts and then flew back home. So it was a fun mission. I got my stamp while I was there too, but it's nice to have something else in the plane when you come home.
That's a cool mission. Yeah.
I like how
Go ahead, Brian.
you weave yourself into the pattern.
I got that too.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. Go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
No, I was just thinking from the movie The Blues Brothers. We're on a mission from God. Tim is on a mission from Mom.
Yeah.
So, hey, what do we say? We get to the belly scrubbing and
yeah, we got a lot to get into. So I'm just going to do this as much like the old FedEx commercial as humanly possible. All right, you guys timing me? All right, here we go. We're grateful for you all making this the best pilot community we know of, a positive space where we share everything from training experiences, share personal minimums, tackle ownership challenges, review flight plans, and best of all, make new aviation friends. Connect with us, join our Patreon community from $1 a month, or do a one-time annual Patreon, 25 cents per episode. Access exclusive content, including check ride debriefs, killing zone conversations, and more. 10% supports Freedom Aviation Network's anti-human trafficking efforts. Watch us live on YouTube Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern. Share your stories, midlifepilotpodcast@gmail.com. We read all the messages. You might hear yours on the show. For everything Midlife Pilot Podcast, community feedback, merch, and more, visit midlifepilotpodcast.com.
And leave a 5-star review.
And leave a 5-star review.
Excellent.
So, Ted, a few Patreons joiners this week.
Yeah, let me go through our little community section.
Yeah.
I want to welcome the new people in our Patreon this week. At the Hershey Bar level, we have Anthony C., Jeff S., and Justin G. So welcome all you for joining.
Thank you. Yeah.
I wrote down a couple of notes of things that have been going on in Discord. I've really liked turning this into kind of the accomplishments section of the podcast. So Boo Radley, who is one of our Australian friends, completed his long solo cross country, 4.1 hours on the Hobbs. Mine was actually about 4 as well. He said, "Well, the flight wasn't perfect. Can you believe I started the engine before I put the seatbelt on?" If that's the worst you're doing is starting the engine without your seatbelt, you're fine. At least I think you are. Barley Dog took his wife for her first flight in his new RV-14 that he finished building. Moat passed their private check ride.
Yes.
Congrats.
There was some good conversation there about taking up, speaking of mom and quilts, about taking up your parents and, kind of the first time that you take your parent up in the air, and it might be their first time in a small plane. I thought that was cool. The last thing that I want to mention was Toby Kai upgraded his KX155 with that, fading LED display that everybody has in the old planes. It slid in a KX200, which is just a drop-in replacement for the old 155, and has a magic upgraded radio, and it looks really beautiful. So
Yeah.
that's in the avionics channel. I'm just happy because there's this, there's a great upgrade path. It's not like, well, $10,000 of work under your panel to get a new radio. So
Can I add
that's
something
great.
real quick about taking your parents up?
Yeah.
There's a part of me that is so envious of people that can do that, because there's a lot of us that are not able to do that for any number of reasons. I mean, my mother is still alive, but she's not able enough, to do it. My dad's not around. So I think that it'd be interesting to hear from people about creative ways that you, for instance, I took up my dad's ashes, a little vial of my dad's ashes for a ride.
I spread a bunch that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So, sometimes it's, we've talked about comparison a lot, and how that's sort of the thief of joy a lot of times in aviation, because everybody's getting their ratings and doing all this cool stuff. And Ted's got a green screen in his hangar and flying in all these impossible places that no human should be able to fly, but he does somehow, because he's got a green screen. But anyway, I think that there's just something to be said for when you see things where you're kind of envious of other people being able to have certain aviation experiences. It's sort of an invitation to be creative and come up with your own ways to have some facsimile perhaps of those experiences, whether symbolic or otherwise, which leads us into our main topic tonight. Ben, do you want to say it, or do you want me to say it?
No, you go ahead. I mean, that was a perfect segue. So,
okay. By the way, that was pretty good, right?
That was pretty impressive. I'm trying to figure out what you need me for here.
Yeah. Well, what we're going to do before we get into anything, we're actually going to talk to Ted, because Ted, we have been talking a lot about this week. And Ted, I think you have a good stage setting, context setting point of view for this that I think people appreciate.
So I have this kind of spiel in my head. I call it a rant, but it's not really. But it's the origins of the Midlife Pilot podcast is all about YouTube and creativity. OG Chris, of course, created his YouTube channel and then added a word to the end of it and became the podcast. Met Brian through doing the same sort of efforts. But early on, it was all YouTube based. And that's why we basically only live stream on YouTube is that's our origins, right? We don't come from Facebook or somewhere like that. It tends to be all there. And in those early few dozen episodes, it was a lot of basically YouTube creatives at all levels, not high end, right? But just people that are putting out garbage videos too. And so early on, this community kind of formed from this kind of creative basis. And we still have that origin in there, but I think that we kind of collect people that are a little bit more creative. I think that pilots generally are probably a little bit more in that type, but especially this podcast. And I really appreciate seeing everybody's videos when they come up and all the work that people do. And I saw that Mark Windlegeek just put something up. Like, it's great. This is what we're about, right? Is sharing it with others, and it's a lot cheaper to watch video than it is to go fly your plane. So that's my thing about this podcast being very creative and being based around YouTubers.
Yes. And so clearly there's some link there, whether we thought about having some sort of a neurologist or somebody on that could map the brain patterns and show us all the correlations, but we instead just did the next best thing, which is to get somebody that plays the banjo and then and just kind of see where it goes. So Tim, Lien, Banjo Pilot, just want to welcome you to the podcast. Thanks for being on with us this evening.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, this topic lands really close to home for me because I think going back to, like you said, with Chris, the OG, being that he has such ties to music too, like that's where kind of an early, for me, where that early connection was, where it was like, oh, I see more of me in this than maybe I do elsewhere out there on the internet.
Yeah, and a lot of the early conversations I had when I was getting to know Chris, that's mostly what we were talking about, just nerding out on audio engineering things. And I know that you have that component to your music nerdery as well, because I've heard you mention that you do front of house for various things and all that.
Yeah.
So ultimately though, I think where the curiosity is, if I had an end game for this, I just want people to that don't think that they're creative. One Dull Geek doesn't think that he's creative. He's so creative. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like he gives, it's almost like he's so creative that he doesn't realize that he's creative. And I think there's a lot of other people that are like that. And if creativity is sort of at the essence of what brought a lot of this together to be the germination for what became this community to begin with anyway, then why not try to revive that a little bit and just sort of point this back at people and say, look, don't feel that being creative is having a jewelry page on Etsy or whatever. You know what I mean? Like this is more than that. By the way, if you have a jewelry page on Etsy, that's great. I don't mean that to be reductive, mostly. No, I'm just kidding.
You just called somebody out there.
No. But you know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to be a fine art painter, right? You can be a maker. You can be a problem solver. Creativity manifests in a lot of different ways. So I'm here just saying we should be exploring the link between creativity and Midlife Pilot. So when it comes to that intersection of art, music, creativity, Tim, what do you think is the reasoning or the underpinnings of why so many pilots are also creatives, whether they realize it or not?
I can only speak from my own place on this, but if I examine myself and the pieces of me that are the creative part and the pieces of me that maybe brought me to aviation as well, I think it's it's like a pursuit of something great. This thing at the end of all this work, you're going to be able to see this new world, right? If you're a musician, you can't explain to a non-musician what it's like to play in a band in front of a group of people. You can't explain that, but it's a lot of work to get there. And when you get there, you're like, yes, this is so great. And I think it's a similar mindset, or maybe like it's what we thrive on or crave, is that we want to do really hard work on things that we know have a big payoff, or kind of that rarefied air. It gets you to a place that you see things that others don't see things. And I think creativity, whether it's in art, music, or, all the other ways you can be creative, it's that you want to put in the work. You don't want that easy payoff because, there's something really, really cool at the end of it.
I'm in a different position than my friends here on the podcast. I feel like I have a inner creative person inside me, and he just hasn't figured out exactly where to explore that creativeness. It has absolutely, though, as somebody who is not creative, it is absolutely punched me in the nose seeing this common tie with so many of our supporters and our listeners of the podcast. Uh, Tim, your AeroGlass thing it's my favorite thing that I have. Uh, our friend Chris C up in Syracuse, he's sent us some little keychains that he bought a laser printer. There's been um, just so many different ways that we've seen the creativity. I'm still trying to figure out where that is with me. I think the most creative output that I had was about 20 years ago when I was doing a lot of fly fishing, and I was bought a vise, and I was tying flies for everybody, and trying to come up with new patterns. And while that's not quite maybe flying related, it is fly fishing, I guess you could tie it together that way. But that was kind of my outlet. I've fallen away from that, but I'm curious for you, and maybe to we can put this out to folks in the chat. Is it tied together with your playing music and then your artistic side or your engineering side where you're building out these things?
Well, hang on. Let me interrupt real quick because he's the jewelry artist. He has a diamond in the rough every once in a while. I'm going to link in the show notes his great YouTube video. He doesn't have many. When he does, they're great.
Okay. Well, thank
True.
you.
And I mean, again, this isn't like you put out a video a week, therefore you're creative, or vice versa. So
Right. That's a good call out. And for me, putting out a video is like giving birth to a baby. It takes 9 months for it to gestate, and then I finally get it out. But
And
I am
more than two is enough. Yeah.
but I am curious if there's a tie for you in the artistic side that's not music and the music, and quite frankly, tying the flying into that. Do you find a commonality there?
I think the commonality is kind of like we were saying, but it's the in all of these things, they're an unmasterable thing. You're never perfect. You could be the only person that's ever reached X number of experience in any of these things, whether it's music or art or flying or creating or making electronic stuff. You can still improve. You can still be better. And I think for me, you want to find those missions that are, I'm never going to be done with this. I can keep growing. I know that there's a path in front of me that goes on forever and ever, and I can fixate on it. I can obsess about it. And it's, again, it's because, the payoff is so great that it's worth putting that in. And you find those things that you can just invest such huge pieces of yourself into. They become part of you, So I think that's kind of the tie that I see, at least for myself. It's just, I find those things that I can glom onto and take way too far and be among a group of people who are cool with me obsessing about it. And we'll talk about it all day.
Well, I just think that's fascinating for me, having been a drummer for a long time and obviously produced a lot of music and worked in music a lot in my life and been around a lot of music. The parallels of aviation to music to me are profound. And here's an example too. There's, like, for me, when I saw one of my favorite drummers of all time is Tony Williams. He played with, Miles Davis when he was 16. He's, one of the best that ever lived. And I saw him many moons ago in a time called the 90s. I saw him do a drum clinic. And there was one point where he just started out this drum clinic. People were there to see this expert do this thing, right? And when he started out to play, he was just playing a double stroke roll, which is just, for anybody who doesn't know, it's just a very simple rudiment, the most simple possible rudiment you could ever play possibly on a snare drum besides a single stroke roll. And it's just a nice, even roll. And he did that. He started, the whole room's full of anticipation and they're watching him and he's just playing and he's doing it at exactly the same volume, perfectly evenly. And he's doing this for 1 minute, 2 minutes. And then it, slowly dynamically built and went on to their, him doing more solo things and whatever. But it was so impacting to me because when you see an absolute proven master of all masters focusing on such rudimentary things, unabashedly focused on the rudiments, and then when you think about what we're doing as pilots, flying in the pattern, we're flying the same pattern that Chuck Yeager flew in, or whatever. It's like a lot of the things that are happening, we're flying the same airplanes that folks trained in, and a lot of people have flown that are masters of their craft. And so I find when you're aware of those differences, they're very subtle. It's like Ben, when I first flew with you, and I did not have many hours at the time, it wasn't anything specific that I could point to. It was just there was this fluidity of motion and oneness with what you were doing. And I have started a plane before. I have taxied a plane before. I have done a run up before. I have gone out on the runway. I've taken off. I've done, you were not doing anything that I hadn't done myself successfully. But the gulf between where I was doing the exact same thing and where you were was so palpable and clear to me that even though the checkpoints of the activity were all exactly the same and the outcomes generally were all the same, there was just this smoothness and fluidity and expert nature to what you were doing that was something that I really wanted for myself and that I made a note of. And then that became sort of a constellation of something that I've been sort of aspiring to, ever since. And so I find that music is the same way, and I find that flying is the same way in that respect. Tim, do you have anything that you've seen that feels like just a direct correlation to the practice and the discipline of learning, music or going back to fundamentals?
I do see a certain amount of myself in all of that. And for me, I hear what you're saying for all of it. And it goes right to me I think of what I call the flow state. I'm sure it's not something I came up with, but when I find those things that I can get into that flow state that's when I know that's one of those things that I can express myself through. So aviation, that's absolutely one of them. Is you say it all the time, Brian, it's air therapy. You get up there and it's like you're in a different world. You're in a space by yourself, and it's, this beautiful thing. I get the same playing music. You get into that flow state. Hours can go by and it feels like minutes, and you just get to live in that space. And similar with working on MyAeroGlass, like when I started working on this, and by the way, a lot of this, if you were at the Big Texas Send, most of this started because of the Big Texas Send. I brought a few of these for these guys to check out, and everyone was like, these are so great. So a little bit of encouragement from all of you. And I went into my garage and I worked for hours and hours and hours and hours in a flow state and enjoyed every minute of it. But it's I got to just buckle down and obsess on something and enjoy the process more so than just like you achieve the end goal. And it's finding those things that you can just love the process of what you're doing. And that's the whole goal of it, is just to be in it.
I want to hear more about MyAeroGlass, but staying on the music topic, I've got to hit Zach P's comment here. He said, flying is doing 100 things at once. Playing music in a band or orchestra is not that different. Listening, processing, and taking action on the things surrounding you. I appreciate that. And I am not musically talented. I apparently have some other talents, but I understand that idea, and that taking in so many inputs and negotiating that and getting somewhere with it. Ben?
Yeah, I want to get to the AeroGlass project here in a minute, but I happen to know from meeting you at the Big Texas Send, you are, correct me if I'm wrong, you're an engineer by trade. Is that correct?
Not per se. I mean, as a hobby, I would say that's where my brain goes, and I should have absolutely gone to school for that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of where I was going with it.
Yeah. My dad's a RF engineer, so I
Gotcha.
spent my childhood soldering things and taking things apart.
It's interesting to me how different creatives approach their different mediums and their different arts, and somebody with more of an engineering background or mindset, not a background, but a mindset. And actually, I kind of consider myself somewhat of, trying to pick things apart. And I felt like that's kind of helped me back. But I think I'm blown away by the AeroGlass and how you've kind of channeled some of that engineering mindset into something artistic, as well as launching into that. can you tell us a little about how you went about designing this, and maybe give us some background
Sure.
in how it influenced the
Well,
product development?
Yeah.
First,
Yeah,
this is an
sorry.
audio podcast, so
Yeah.
let's describe.
Wait a
what-
minute, this is audio. The people aren't watching. Okay.
I know, yeah. So let's describe what we're talking about first. Do you want to do that, Tim?
Sure. Yeah. So MyAeroGlass the simplest description, it's a wooden base with a slot in it that has a row of LEDs and a clear acrylic plate that sits within that vertically with a laser engraved image. Typically I'm doing like an airport diagram and, the plan view of an airplane, maybe the name of the pilot, an N number. So it's kind of a way to commemorate your airport, your airplane, your achievements, things like that. So the origins of it, actually going back to my CFI that abandoned me to go fly caravans in the Congo, he's to blame. It's actually his wife is to blame. I had made a METAR map similar to some of the ones that are behind you guys. And I was like, hey, I'll trade you this METAR map for some, flight instruction time. And he goes, I have to ask my wife. So he comes back the next day and he's like, she thinks they're ugly.
That's awesome.
So the gears in my head are turning, of course, immediately. I'm like, first of all, how dare you say something like that is ugly? But then like, okay, well, that's a problem. We all want our aviation stuff all over our houses, but it can't be maybe the sectional charts that we're all looking at. So how do we make something that's a little less obtrusive, something that'll fit into the home a little bit? And then this just kind of started percolating in my brain out of that. And I threw together some of the parts from one of the METAR maps I was making. And I have a little hobby CNC machine and I threw them in a base, and you can probably go back in the Discord and see some really early photos of it.
Yeah.
It was rough, but it worked. And it was you guys that all were so encouraging that kind of gave me that maybe other people would have interest in this. And Ben, actually, I'll blame you maybe more than anyone, because I remember sitting at the Tiki Bar at the Big Texas Send, and you had yours and you just got it connected, I think, in the hotel. And you said, man, if you can figure out how to make these, you just got to start thinking about what airplane you're going to buy next. and I was
remember
like,
that, actually.
Challenge accepted, Ben.
Yeah.
Well,
I
okay,
expect
so
to be the first passenger in the new airplane, by the way.
that's right.
Yeah.
By the way, just so we've kind of glossed over the idea or the key functionality here of it, other than just being beautiful, is that it actually lights up the color of the flight category of weather. And there's I see mine here. I can tell when the winds pick up, because there'll be there's this kind of a dynamic wind animation thing that happens. That's really cool. So you can see when the winds, well, I guess it's like after they get past 10 knots, I think it is. Is that right?
Over 10 knots, it starts to chase a white LED, and then that's linear based on wind speed. So as the wind speeds up, that chases faster. So I'm trying to communicate as much information about current conditions as I can in a way that's not right in your face. It's kind of if you know, and you can understand what you're seeing if you know what it's showing, but it's not like you have to, look at a big sectional chart and figure out what's going on. It's art first, and it's functional art,
So one of the points I just want to make, driving this back towards creativity, is, you're talking about the story of making these. It's not unlike your music pursuits or anything else. Everybody picks up, when you picked up a banjo, you were terrible at it, and then you got better. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you were a prodigy and it just worked out immediately.
or maybe I'm still really bad.
That's right. There's a lot of options here. But flying, I've never felt more hapless in my entire life than when I first started flying. I really thought, like many of us, oh man, in my head, I've got all this together. I know exactly how this works. Right. I understand all the controls and the aerodynamics, and this is going to be a breeze. I've got really good coordination, and hey, I'm a drummer. I've got limb independence, and I can do all that stuff. So let's go, man. And then realize, oh, I can't even taxi. I'm a mess or whatever. So to start so simple. So with the project you're talking about, I love that you basically saw you had sort of an inspiration to do something. You reconstituted existing things to create something that was a prototype for something new, And then and that's the sort of not being afraid to suck kind of thing, you know what I mean? Which is what keeps us, I think, from a lot of creative endeavors, is just being afraid of being bad at it. I think a lot of us deluded ourselves getting into flying, that we just thought we'd be good at it, and then by the time you'd already paid for it, it's like, well, then I got to get good for this, good at this. So but anyway, so I find it interesting, the parallel between the experience of having an idea, prototyping, iterating something, and growing it to something that is actually answering to a problem. And then now you've got something that, I'm so much more aware of the weather now, because when I'm not flying, I kind of know what the patterns are of the weather, what the weather's doing, and how things might be fluctuating or not. And so sometimes it's not just about when you're flying, right? So I think it's just a really cool thing that you've done, but it's born of not being afraid to be creative and putting together a shoddy prototype and then iterating, it's great.
Yeah. Well, and I do think part of it is maybe the personality type of us midlife pilots is we see those things similar to flying, just like you were saying, Brian, where your first time up there, you're like, I'm going to get this. And it's a struggle. We, rather than walking away from it, we're like, okay, like I said to Ben, challenge accepted. This is fine. I've encountered a hard thing and I'm not going to be beat by it. I'm excited to get good at it. And that's a lot of what all this is we're talking about, is we want those challenges and we, take them head on.
I've got to say though, a lot of these things are difficult. And I think one of the favorite sayings I like is we chose this not because it was easy, but because we thought it was easy. And, I don't know. I don't know if this is the case with you, Tim, but I'll do these little side obsessions and see where they take me. And it's not, oh, I'm trying to make a business out of this. It's, I want to solve a problem for myself, or I want to play with this, or whatever. And sometimes those lead to something that, you share a special mount with Wendell Geek, because you made a few of them. Sometimes it never leaves my house, right? Like there's the levels of that, of all these little things that you play with.
And that's why the community, any community is important, but this community especially, because it gives us a place that we can share those things. We don't necessarily always have places like that, where a lot of things might just fall away because you don't have someone to say, hey, check out this thing I made, So having a group of people, similar interests, similar, mindset, that you can throw little things out there, maybe some of those do catch. And if it weren't for me having the Midlife Pilot podcast to bounce that off of, it probably wouldn't have done anything either. So it's all thanks to the people you surround yourself with, to an extent.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point, and it kind of segues into my next question. And I wanted to hit on two comments, actually. Our friend Douglas in the chat says, this audience can appreciate the statement, hobby CNC machine. and that kind of gets to kind of my point, in that it's kind of a blessing and a curse that we've attained an age, experience level, where we have the capabilities to get a hobby CNC and have the capacity to be able to use it all. I'm curious, would you see yourself doing this 15 years ago, Tim?
No, I don't think so. It's actually even just recently that I've maybe let that voice in the back of my head that's saying, like, go find your own thing. I finally started listening to it. I was doing the corporate grind for the longest time, and so much of being part of the aviation community and seeing the opportunities in it and all of that. That's what kind of shook me and said, like, you find something to do in the stuff that you love. And that really just kind of opened maybe my mind to start finding something like this to do.
And that was kind of the point. I wanted to hit one other comment from TWH Tango Whiskey Hotel Kurt. He said, getting my pilot's license changed my life. Flying, in quotes, felt like an impossible goal. I worked for someone that was a pilot and convinced me to take lessons. After I got PPL, I figured I could do anything. And I think that's a great connection there. I think all of us had that sense of, holy cow, I can't believe I just did that. Now I can go take on anything. I mean, it's very well taken. But it kind of feels like the same thing that you're going through now. You've gone through this stuff, and now you've got this awesome idea. Let's get this out to the world and let them take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, by the way, I just have to interrupt here and say this is all good and fine, but and people that are watching this can see that I've got one behind me here. Ted's got one behind him. We got the podcast logo on it. We're Ted's VFR. Clearly, I'm VFR over here. Ben, yours is off screen, but yours is right there. But I don't know. There's something. The people in the chat here can see this behind you, Tim. There's one that looks like Stonehenge
Colossal.
compared to what looks like what we have. So how come you're holding out on the what's happening there?
So that's brand new. It's kind of an accident, actually. I was, throwing some stuff together and some content together for the website, and needed something out there that was a little bit more eye-catching, a little bigger, more impressive. Still thinking like, yeah, these the 6x6 ones, that's still going to be the sweet spot. And I made one of these and I took some pictures of it. And then I was just like, I almost wish I hadn't made it because it's so much cooler. But it does 4 airports. So it's 1 unit, 1 base, 4 different slots. And then the plates are about 11 inches tall instead of 6.
Oh, geez.
So it gives you, a bigger canvas. And of course, when we're talking about creative, it's nice to have more space to do stuff. So I have on this one, I have it's a Piper M500 that I have across all 4 plates, and then I have 4 airports represented under each one. So,
and that's the one on your website. That's 123 Alpha Bravo.
Correct.
That's where those
Yep.
pictures come from. So the website is, and it launched today, I hear, is MyAeroGlass, MYAERO glass.com.
Yep.
And yeah, it's been interesting seeing it's been really cool seeing the evolution of this, and not just, this is designed for us nerds that have a home airport that want to see the weather, but this is something that someone would buy as a gift. Like, I have 3 T-shirts with the egg on it because people like, what do I buy Ted? His partner told me what plane he flies, and so now so they independently have bought me T-shirts as gifts, and so I put in that same category of, we've got a aviation nerd. What is it that they'd benefit from?
And we want it all. That's the thing, is any aviation gift is a good gift.
Man.
So we'll take it all.
But here's the great thing, though, and it's the origin story. Really, if you could weave this into the website, maybe, but how your CFI's wife didn't like it, so you had to make something that pleased her. I freaking love that, and I can tell you, there's going to be so many people out there that can identify with. I've got a huge METAR map behind me that's we're got to get fixed, but I could take my AeroGlass and I could put it anywhere in the house I want to because my wife loves it. She thinks it's great. It's a lot of us midlifers are just trying to make sure we're keeping our significant others happy with the expensive hobbies.
I will say, from experience, it is a double-edged sword because my partner's dad, he's a pilot, and I go flying with him out in the Denver area a lot. So he has one of the early ones from way back when, and when his wife walks by his office and sees it and sees that it's green, the way she explained it to me, it's like finding out that your husband has a mistress, because she sees it green and she's like, he's going to go to the hangar.
Yeah.
He's leaving today.
Well, I'm going to say my map is behind me and my AeroGlass is behind me, which means I never look at them, except it means I look at them all the time, because when I'm in my remote job and I'm always on video conferences, I'm always looking at that. And it's like, weather's not great at the coast today. And there's a meeting going on. And, so yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, we put these in places that we can see them because it is so important to us. Zach, not to be confused with Zach P, said he has one and loves it. Barry, speaking of people who, I'm going to talk about that for a sec, but Barry, Checkmate Barry, says, I love my AeroGlass. So Barry is a great example of that, of this whole thing, because he communicated with the people that make aviation checklists because he wanted a very custom modern version of it. And they said, why don't you just buy the company? So Barry has turned his hobby into a larger hobby and a business as well. And it's again the same thing, right? It's like we're surrounded by people that are like, yeah, checklists are important, and it's like, so I really appreciate that about Barry. And also, the first time Barry reached out was after a podcast where I talked about when you just have one GoPro sitting behind you facing forward and you put a YouTube video out of that it looks like a security camera. And he just emailed me. He's like, I love that. That's so accurate for the one GoPro view of flying. So yeah, he loves it in the background for video calls as well. Yeah.
Well, I think there's something to be said for being a problem solver, which I think is really what creativity is all about. Is just you see a gulf between two existing states that you just want to connect, or you see the power of combining one thing and another thing to create something that is then new. I think that when people are pursuing ratings and trying to build time, I think that one of the things we've talked about a lot on the podcast is how, as we are building time and pursuant to things, we can also have periods of complacency, or maybe where we're not applying our best selves at all times. Do you find that you have, I'm going to try to ask this question in a way that makes sense. I have realized for myself that being an artist and a creative my whole life, and then all of a sudden being a pilot, I now have this almost like a matrix that I can now apply over this existing, otherwise kind of weird, amorphous cauldron of creativity that sometimes I can direct at functional benefits or to solve a problem or whatever. But a lot of the time it's kind of wandering and it's not organized or it's not prioritized. And there's something about the training, almost like in a military sense of, aviate, navigate, communicate, checklists, getting your S together, you know what I mean? And there's something about that with the stakes of aviation, then backwards sort of applied to creativity, has given me a new lease on creativity because I've got a new framework of perhaps a discipline around it. Do you have any experience like that?
I 100% agree, especially in the music side of things. Going from, music where it had been for much of my life, it was a creative outlet. It was just express yourself. It's not necessarily accomplishing much, which that's totally okay with a lot of creative endeavors. But to a certain extent, you're kind of just spinning in a circle. When I went through the process of ground school and training and going through the check rides, and like you're saying, you start to put this, like, here's a framework. If you do this, this, and this, and you stick to this process, you can shape those efforts into this. And I've noticed significant changes in how I practice music, how I bring that to the group when we're playing together or rehearsing together. And it's just like, it's accelerated all of those things because I approach them kind of with more of that methodical mindset that really I didn't have until I was, really digging into aviation.
So now that all your band members hate you, for when you like, oh, here comes the banjo, or you play fiddle, right? I mean, in the band you're in now, is that right?
I play fiddle in this band. Yeah.
Yeah. So, fiddle player, are you talking about checklists again? And,
they just turn off my mic whenever I start talking.
I have to, claim some origins, which is, as soon as you say fiddle and banjo, I just think if you're going to play in Texas, you got to have a fiddle in the band. And if anybody recognizes that reference, I'm sorry. But yeah, Barry was saying it just as Tim was talking. It's just, aviation's all about structure. Structure is important to be successful at all endeavors. And that's what I love about somebody like Brian, which is there's a lot of structure, but that enables the creativity. And it's such a amazing difference to some of us at least, it's like, well, the structure means that you're not creative. It's like, no, it's within that. I've got to say, fairly early on, Brian, you did a here's how I use DaVinci Resolve like Zoom session, and I was on it, and Mark Wendell Geek was on it, and it might have been someone else on there. And that's really when I started like actually creating videos was after that, because like I could never get into like multi-track video editing. And again, there's a big time waste, but you know, it's being inspired by others, and you know, you were able to do that for me, of kind of like unlock my brain of like, okay,
there's
I see
also
how you
something
do
to be
it.
said for like, if that guy can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, is what Ted's trying to tell you. That
Yeah. I mean, you're showing like using a reverse of water over an image to give it a creative look. I don't know. I just remember that. So, so anyway, your influence on that was helpful. And I know you've been talking to Tim a little bit.
a message or a chat from Zach P. He says, I have been a creative musician all my life. And I then learned to be a teacher, then got a job in data analytics, then started to learn how to fly. Creativity is always the pulse to my learning.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It just happened as was scrolling through Instagram, and there's so many musician pilots that have been popping up on my feed. So the lead singer of Bare Naked Ladies is a serious pilot, but there's like 20 examples. There's a drummer for the Eagles cover band. I can't remember the name of them, but they travel all over the country. He flies an M600.
Kenny G is like he's a serious pilot. I think he owns a de Havilland Beaver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa. And he's also, I hear, one of the smoothest pilots.
Near Bob Hoover. Yeah.
That's too funny.
Oh, well, the other thing I wanted to just make sure we get out here real quick is just to say that if there's anything I would like people to walk away from hearing, listening to this podcast, what do I do with this? In the same way that you went on, chose to take on aviation, please, if you feel like, I don't know, I've never even painted before, but I'm just going to go send it and see what happens. Or I don't know. I just hope that it creates the impulse, the final turn in somebody's brain to start doing something that maybe they haven't done before. And it's totally fine to be terrible at it. And we have a channel in our Discord that is dedicated to all manner of creativity among all of the pilots in this group here, in this community. And, so some things will be very good. Some things will be experimental. Some things are just ideas. It doesn't matter. So if you're looking for a reason to get started and a no judgment zone to share some of these things, because we haven't even talked about, all the photography and just all of the other, the writing, and, you've got people as influential as, Richard Bach, or, people there's just so much poetry and Zen and philosophy and beauty and inspiration in the whole aviation world. And I think that what it comes down to, if I was to try to sum it up with anything else, I would just say that flying is a transcendent thing. It is something where you are outside of your dimensional normative reality and able to sense and feel things through a whole new lens, which is the most life-giving possible thing that you can have, I think, especially when you're getting midlife. It's like, okay, well, I've had a lot of chocolate milkshakes. I like them, and I'm excited whenever I have a chocolate milkshake, but I've had this milkshake before. So anyway, instead of chocolate milkshakes, strap yourself to a death machine with barely any skills and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're here for.
Yes, promoting safer flying, written by Brian Siskin.
And chocolate milk.
And chocolate milk.
Yes. Hey, I'm going to put a link in the doobly-doo for Kenny G on Social Flight YouTube channel.
Awesome.
He sits there and talks for an hour because he's an aviation nut. And like, seriously, so
We're all in good
awesome.
company. Well, you guys are in good company. Me, not so much, but that's okay.
Yeah. Hey, Tim,
I'm a fly fisherman too, Ben. We'll go sometime. I'll tie some flies with you.
Oh, Lord.
Oh boy.
Be careful what you ask for is all I got to say.
I know a few good trout streams up in southeast Minnesota. You get here and I'll take you.
Be there in about 8 hours.
Tim, is there anything else you want to make sure you touch on before we cut out of here?
No, it's just a big thank you to you guys and to the community, because, it sounds cliche, but none of this would be here without you. And, throw back to the OG Chris too, because he's the one that brought me to the podcast in the first place. And here we are, and it's just an exciting ride, and it's awesome to be part of this community of people.
Awesome.
Absolutely. So we do appreciate you coming on. For everybody that's listening, go check out MyAeroGlass.com. MyAeroGlass.com. Yes, I spelled it out. Ted will have it linked in the show notes. I enjoyed this. I didn't know that I was going to have a lot to contribute, and I kind of didn't, but I did enjoy hanging out with you, Tim. It was great to see you again. So everybody that's in the chat, stay with us. We're going to be around for a little bit, but tonight's bit of wisdom, since we have two guys that are kind of in the midst of IFR training, I thought I would impart a little wisdom there. Flying IFR, it's where you trade scenery for stress. Signing off, episode 141 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks, Tim.
Cool.
Nice job, Tim.
Yeah.
That was fun. Thanks.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Is it okay if we call the episode "Strap Yourself to a Death Machine"?
With
Please.
something about milkshakes and death machines.
Yeah, milkshakes and death machine.
Exploring our creative side.
I did-
Milkshakes and death machines.
I did write down, because I don't know if Peter Tarantelli's in the comments still, but I did my Peter Tarantelli job of writing down titles, and I wrote down Caravans in the Congo, because for some reason that I also wrote down, I don't know if this was
a new band.
Yeah. This
Hey,
is-
so
Caravans
yeah,
in the Congo,
thank
I
you
like
so
that.
much, Tim. I'm gonna refill ice water, take a bio break, and then come back. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna say
We'll,
goodbye to Tim.
I'll see
and-
y'all in the
Say-
chat.
See you,
Yeah.
buddy.
See you, buddy. Take care,
All
Tim.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to take about 5 minutes. We're all going to take breaks and come back and kind of banter and come back for 142. Yeah. So be here in a minute. Okay, so I had to show off in the belly scrub that, Tarantelli, taking your job. I know. Sorry, dude. I only wrote down one thing, and I don't have great handwriting, so I had to show in the belly scrub that I was digging into White Claw. I'm out of cider in the fridge, and I am trying to save the spotted cow for our information whiskey nights. So I decided I'm gonna break into some White Claws, go classy tonight. So, Tim, I assume you're in the other Portland. You could be in Florida, though. Those are my only guesses. Although, if you want to talk about being the furthest from here as possible, you could be in Hawaii, for all I know, or Puerto Rico. Let's have an intro to our fourth host tonight. There's Mr. Rupert. He's usually very chatty. TV static with someone yelling a fruit name from the other room. Oh, did I say Tim and guessing on where? Yeah. Anyway, TV static with someone yelling a fruit name. I don't know what that reference is, Flint. Sorry. Adam, you've got me there. That is, yeah. Nathan says he's the furthest Charlie. And did I say Tim was the furthest Charlie? Sorry about that. Yeah. I saw, was it between last episode and this that Mr. Ballard and I hung out? Might have been before the last one. That was cool. Yeah. All right. Tastes like static. Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah. Ben, I had to defend that.
Wait 1 second.
Yeah,
Say that again.
I had to defend what I'm drinking tonight, and Adam's got the right comment here. So, yeah.
I try not to judge on what people drink, but it's so hard to do when you're drinking White Claw.
Oh, it is. It is like I'm drinking it fully ironically. Yeah.
I mean, somebody put it in your refrigerator. You got to drink it. I mean, you can't let it go to waste.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, and I was saying I'm saving the spotted cow for our information whiskey nights. So, yeah. Oh, you got to stand up and show off your shirt.
I will. I'm typing. You're saving the spotted cow for what?
For information whiskeys.
Oh,
Yeah.
really rubbed it.
Yeah. I have like 24, so, you know.
Yeah, Zach, Ted's a good friend. He's a great. He's a good instructor. He's one of those that loves to teach. He's not there to. He's obviously not there. He's a midlife. So I'll be in and out of PDK. Good bit, Zach. Here, not this week, but starting next week. Multi is start kicking in hard and heavy.
Yeah. When's your next multi-flight?
Great question. Young Padawan. We're in August, right? Monday, the 25th.
25th. Okay.
2 weeks.
Oh.
I'm drinking diet caffeine-free Pepsi. If there's anything more neuter than White Claw.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I really enjoyed One Dull Geek's latest video. If you guys haven't seen it, go
It's
check it
on
out.
my feed. It's queued up. I'm ready to go watch it.
The
It's
one
really
that came out
great.
like 27 minutes ago.
It's really great. It's just a straight ahead IFR flying experience, and but it was educational. And the only thing I was wondering about is, Mark, I know you're listening. So with the whole smart charts and dynamic procedures and all these things, the whole impetus lately has been, how do I declutter my view in my EFB so that when I'm flying an approach, it is as clear as possible, relevant information only.
If only there was an app for that.
and then I'm watching Mark's video, and he's got his iPad recording large on the screen, which is great. You can kind of see all the things that are going on the plate and where he is in space and all that. Mark, you've got to turn off the airplanes that are 40,000 feet above you. There's like a hornet's nest of planes flying all around him. You know, it's like the busiest screen ever, and it's like every plane is at least 30,000 feet above him. So
Counterpoint, those can be nice when you're like remote and talking to center. and you're trying to figure out what direction they're headed because I got a handoff. So, yeah. Or I was in mountains in a secret video that you saw. I was like in this bowl and I was coming up to a MOA, and I was like, I may have to call up to that United flight to have them relay to ask if they're, like,
Yeah.
To answer Mark's question, yes, you can, but my instructor and I agreed together that we need to get some more time in the plane before we start doing some IMC stuff. So,
Garmin pilot here. Yeah.
Actually related to some issues. Okay. Let me get my thing set up here.
Okay. So to set the scene, episode 142, this comes out next week.
Yes.
This is titled 141. So hopefully we don't forget. Thankfully, we don't talk about like what date it comes out and that kind of stuff. Our friends on the other podcast have had trouble with that, where they're like, hey, it's coming out today, and they say it on the pod. So
what episode is this we're doing?
This is 142.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the one where I said in Discord, can definitely use help from the audience, and you'll see why. Because this is just kind of spitballing and creativity. And so I'm sure you're all going to have some ideas. So just setting you up for that.
Definitely.
I mean, there's no reason I'm not saying what it is. We're talking about MOSAIC and the future and, ideas, but I'm trying to make it all secret or something. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We ready to go?
Hit it.
Yeah. And PT2 is not another Peter Tarantelli. We've got one already.
There can only be one.
Yeah. All right. Here we go.
Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. What is it like to become a pilot in midlife? The challenges are unique, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences. You definitely should not take any advice too seriously from an aviation podcast that uses terms like icing on the vegetables. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello and welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast, where we share the experiences and challenges of flying in midlife. Whether you're a seasoned pilot, training for a rating, or just thinking about getting your started in aviation, I like to think of the podcast as your aviation companion and your weekly dose of aviation inspiration. Tonight, we're going to be talking MOSAIC Part Deux. How was my French?
Pretty good.
That's
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've been practicing that. My name is Ben, and I am a pilot with an IFR rating and a commercial certificate based in the metro Atlanta area, flying a 182 we like to call the Beast, and we'll hopefully be flying a Beechcraft Duchess here in a couple of weeks. Joining me tonight are my friends. First, a private pilot in Nashville, home of the Bachelorette Super Charlie. He flies a Cherokee 180 named Lucy. It's our creative genius. It's our friend on Music Row. His name is Brian. Good evening.
Good evening. I hesitate to say that it might become the boring tunnel Super Charlie, but I think that they're going to dig a tunnel between B&A and downtown to sort of conveyor belt bachelorettes to and from. So I guess maybe it's just an acceleration of the Bachelorette Super Charlie. But anyway, I'm super excited about the episode tonight and getting back into MOSAIC to talk about what's next. Ted, you did such an amazing job on the first touch of this as the news came out. We're not a topical podcast. We don't like to do that kind of thing. But in that case, it was just too relevant and too impacting to ignore. And so we turned you loose on it. And it was a fan favorite, a listener favorite. Everybody loved it. We all realized that this whole shenanigans of us having a podcast and not knowing what we're talking about, it can only go so far. You saved the day. And I'm super excited about really understanding now that we have an understanding what is next. So thanks again for making that episode happen. And if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to that, whatever episode number it is. Pretty recent, 2 episodes ago or last, I don't know, recent.
Yeah.
Very recent. And so Brian has kind of done a quasi introduction. But for those of you who don't know, our friend Ted is a sport pilot extraordinaire. I've used that term a lot, but it really is true. He's based in Portland. He flies a flight design CTLS. We like to call it the Egg. Good evening, Sir Ted.
Hey, so glad to be here. Yeah. Speaking of the tunneling, I was trying to remember and find it. I'll put it in the show notes, but there's a comedic entry about a burrito tunnel that runs between San Francisco and Weehawken, New York, and it's one of those great like old internet lore type things. You know, it's like the burritos move fast enough that they stay warm in the tunnel. So yeah, kind of been on a
Deep
burrito
dive.
kick
That's a
lately.
deep cut. I appreciate that the city of Nashville is just trying to create scalability in their biggest economic boon. I mean,
Yeah.
God bless them.
Well, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too much here, but we're talking to ATC Scott about coming back on, BNA controller ATC Scott. And he did mention to me that while the footprint and the boundary of the Super Charlie itself obviously was already just recently expanded, that's not changing, but there have been some further changes to the scope of their responsibilities, I suppose I could say now, that will be very interesting to talk about, that does have to do with a wider range of airspace. So anyway, it's a constantly growing, changing environment, and we'll have ATC Scott on soon to learn more about it.
Yeah,
Nice.
I thought you were talking about a airspace tunnel when you were mentioning that. Because
did too,
You made
actually.
a mention of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the next thing is the Bachelorette Sifra.
I've got 4 bachelorettes on board. Do I get to use the tunnel to get to BNA?
What is it? What is the call sign you get to use at CareFlight? For Angel
Compassion flight.
Yeah. So we need the version of that for this. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Very good. So not a whole lot going on since the last time we recorded an episode, but anything you guys want to bring up before we get into the belly scrubbing? Anything we need to cover?
I think we've got so much to do that I'm just going to bang through the belly scrub, and we're just going to move to the next phase. And
I think the last one was 34 seconds.
Ted doesn't like this idea. I can already tell.
Let me just mention a couple of things that I saved that were kind of surreal moments for the flying recap.
Okay.
The one was I checked in. I was on this. I was on the center frequency. I was in the mountains, and I needed to know if this MOA was open, and I could barely hear her, and I just said, "Is the MOA open?" And I'm waiting for a response. I can barely hear it, and I said, "Okay, I'll get flight following with you later." And came out of the mountains, and 20 minutes later, and I could hear her, so I set up flight following, and I checked in, and a tail number and all that. She came up with my position and all that, and a few minutes later, she said, "Flight 203 Tango, I have a message passed along from you, from a pilot on another frequency," because she's broadcasting on multiple. Says the tail number. Would like to say hi, and that is our friend Sling Pilot Mark. You may know in the Portland area, and he was 200 miles away coming back from a triathlon, and heard my tail number, and so he had the center controller just pass along the hello. That was awesome. Just those what moments, right? That's
Speaking of moments, I want to ask you a question, Brian. A survey question. It's not really a survey, but of the 3 of us, who do you think would be most likely to appear on a Vast Aviation video first?
Oh gosh, that is. So what would get you on one of those videos? It would be either doing something completely dumb, an actual emergency, or having a really bad attitude. Those are pretty much the 3 things that are going to get you on
There's some
Vast
humorous stuff there.
I've got to say, out of the 3 of us, the one most likely to be on it is Lord Alpha Juliet.
for all of the reasons mentioned above.
Exactly.
Yeah, for us 3, I think I don't know. I
I'd put you.
I think probably you, Ben, because you like to yuck it up with ATC, and then I have definitely done some things where I've asked weird questions or said weird things that have started some weird conversations, but that weird doesn't really get you on vast aviation. So yeah, probably you, Ben, because you're just kind of affable and friendly, and I can see like somebody doing something really goofy on a frequency and them checking with you, who's just a more familial sounding voice, to sort of check them to see if they're crazy. You know what I mean? Like a scenario
It's
like that.
funny that you mentioned that, because that exact thing happened, but not with me. It happened with our friend Ted. Ted has made an appearance on Vast Aviation.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
No.
Right. Yes. Yes, we'll put the link in the show notes. But Ted was following up on a witty conversation between a pilot and a controller.
Between many pilots and a controller.
Actually,
How did I
yeah,
not
there
know
was
this?
quite-
How did I
Yes.
not know this? Is this recent?
It just came out a couple days ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you don't tell you guys know, and you don't tell me. Like what? That's like we're.
You say
just
save
found
it
it
for the
today.
show. Yeah.
Ah.
Save it for the show. That's what we're doing. So,
I feel like I'm out of the friend group.
Now, a little bit insider on that, which is I don't think Live ATC had that frequency, or I guess it was just one frequency. And so the audio is with no noise correction, and it's from my plane. So it has all the high pitched noises that my plane puts in audio tracks. So you'll hear that all the way through it. But yeah,
Yeah,
it was-
your plane sounds like a regular plane in a vertical dive.
yeah, combined with all the electronic noise you could ever get from something.
Yeah. Well,
and,
that's
and
awesome.
what I was going to say, I'm sorry to step on you, Brian, but the topic of conversation actually was more befitting of me, if you know my current situation. But yet Ted was thrown into it. So well done to make an appearance on VAS with and not being in a bad light.
And not being given a number to copy.
That's exactly right.
Well, everybody on this live stream is just the numbers are just dipping right now because everybody's going to check that out right now.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. We
So,
ready to move on to the next thing?
Let's go, man. Let's do it.
Okay.
33 seconds is your goal.
I saw Nathan Ballard mention that he was asking for there was an over under for 33 seconds.
Yep.
All right. I don't know if I need to drink a water first or not, but here we go. 33 seconds is the record to beat for doing our housekeeping, aka belly scrub. All right, here we go. And start it. We're grateful for you making this the best pilot community we know of, a positive space where we share everything from training experiences, share personal minimums, tackle ownership challenges, review flight plans, and best of all, make new aviation friends. Connect with us, join Patreon community $1 a month, or do a one-time annual Patreon, 25 cents per episode, access exclusive content, including check ride debriefs, killing zone conversations, and more. 10% supports Freedom Aviation Network's anti-human trafficking efforts. Watch us live on YouTube, Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern. Share your stories, midlifepilotpodcast@gmail.com. We read every message. You might hear yours on the show. For everything Midlife Pilot Podcast, community feedback, merch, and more, visit midlifepilotpodcast.com.
34 seconds.
Yeah.
Really? And I
Yes,
it
seriously.
wasn't as smooth as the last one because
No,
I
it
actually
wasn't.
nailed the last one.
We put the pressure on you.
No, that's
right.
great. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's done. Next thing.
We appreciate it. Ted, do you want to get that? Or actually, Brian, we got a little bit of feedback from a Patreon survey. Or do you want me to hit that and give yourself a break after talking so fast?
Yeah, I'm out of breath.
Yeah, exactly.
This comes to from our listener or our Patreon supporter, William S. He said, "Hello, Midlife Pilot community. Been listening in and ready to join. Solo at 16, license at 17, out of Papa Whiskey Kilo, which I believe is Pewaukee. Is that just out of Chicago, if I'm not mistaken?"
Yeah.
He said, "Then life happened, as it does for all of us. Fast forward 37 years later, and I just got signed off on my BFR after about 12 hours flying with the CFI. I'm so excited to be back to flying. Now what? The struggle is real."
That's so awesome. I really, I'd like to have somebody on sometime to kind of pick their brain a little bit about that experience, because I mean, 37 years in between, and then what does that 12 hours really consist of, and what was there right away? What things were not? I'm just curious about having that much of a gulf between being an active pilot and then coming back to it, and how do you how do you go about it, and how good do you feel about your own perception of your own skills versus the reality of your own skills and all that? I think it's an interesting thing.
Yeah. Somebody slid in the Discord today and so they've been 25 years out of it and are inspired and getting back into it now. And I have the same question for William as I do for the person that in Discord, which is, what has changed? What is most different to you from what you remember? And
Right.
it could
37
easily
years.
be GPS, ADSB, those types of things. It could also be like, I forgot what it was like. Banjo Pilot has the perfect comment here. It said, they told me I can't smoke in the plane anymore. They're not flying with Brian. So,
Or me. I've got ashtrays. They can certainly smoke, as long as they're cigars.
oh, there you go. Yeah.
So, very cool. So tonight we want to take another dip our toes back into the MOSAIC pool, if you will. Excuse me, Brian. I mean, when we came out with the first episode, Ted gave an outstanding overview and what it all means. But I guess the question now is, how is this going to impact specifically midlifers? Maybe those that are sitting on the couch now with an interest in learning to fly, to somebody who's got 5,000 hours and is looking to, maybe slow down a little bit. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I have certainly questions around that that I'm ready for Ted to answer without, and to do it in a way that's psychic, where I don't really actually have to ask the question. He just answers them preemptively. But also there's that, and then I think one of the larger pieces for me that I have hanging out in my brain about this is, whenever something new happens in any facet of technology or regulation or anything else, and whether it's aviation or any other area, it seems like it always starts with the feeling of a big promise, but then slowly there's some new reality that chips away at the dream that seems ignited in all of this, and it becomes something that's a facsimile of its intention as it relates to the real world. So to be a little bit more specific, I'm wondering about airplanes. A lot of people have said, well, manufacturers are now going to be incentivized to build aircraft that are much more affordable, that are higher performing aircraft, and things around that. So is that real? Are we really having a moment like that, where there's going to be this cataclysmic shift, or the opposite of whatever happened in the 80s, when manufacturing had to stop due to laws, and exposure to litigation opened up and all of that, and it kind of just shut everything down? I mean, imagine if that happened in the automotive industry, right?
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden just no cars are being produced by anybody for years. I mean, it wouldn't affect me at all, but but it's like, so I guess that's one of the things that I'm really curious about. So while we understand, and if you're not clear about what it means for you as a pilot or what it means for light sport aircraft, go back and listen to the previous episode. But Ted, tell us what you're going to tell us.
Well, this is an episode that's a lot more about kind of daydreaming. And we were having a meeting, the three of us, and talking about it. And you noted that about a week ago that Ford was making a big announcement, and they wouldn't say what it was. It was the Model T announcement. And they were announcing.
Oh yeah, they were saying that they were, to be clear, Ford had said, we have something coming that's new, that is going to be our Model T moment of this time.
Yeah. And well, it was affordably priced electric vehicles. So, which is great. A $30,000 car instead of a $80,000, electric Ford truck sort of thing is kind of what they're going for. But to set the scene, the original Model T, Henry Ford said he wanted to build a car for the great multitudes. There were about 60,000 cars in 1908 when the Model T was created by 1922, like 14 years later, almost half of cars were Model Ts. So there was a huge change. Now, they said there were 15 million built. There weren't 15 million in the US. There weren't even a fraction of that. But the point is that it really changed the game. And they went from being, I don't remember what it was, like $800 to $300 in that period of time. They went down in price. What happened? What if that happened in aviation? We started making this plane 10 years ago and now it's cheaper. Like, how wild is that? So, I don't think that we're going to get there. But what are the things that we all see that we'd like, or that seem to be constrained, that could change here?
Well, I think you have to start with training aircraft.
Yeah.
And obviously there's electric aircraft that are getting very close, if not just there,
Yeah.
to be able to do that. And obviously the overhead for flight schools is so intense. So for them to be able to have electric planes to use for training be massive. While that's interesting, what I'm really hoping for is that there is essentially, if you think about it, most of us are flying moderately capable old general aviation aircraft, or effectively antiques, but a Cherokee 180 or a little bit, more powerful 182, 172s, whatever. I'm really interested to see what things can be built perhaps at scale, because more people are allowed to fly and there's less the ability for certificated aircraft to be able to be now building the same aircraft not certificated, essentially. Is that really true? I mean, right? Like isn't that what they're saying, Ted?
Yeah. I mean, what planes have been built in the last 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah. So like, could there be an Archer that comes out or
Yeah.
whatever?
Well,
that's
what have we seen in the last 20 years? We've seen Cirrus, and we've seen more 172s, which is a 70-year-old design. So, Cirrus roughly is the only thing that's new. Lots of LSAs in very small numbers. But what's the main part of the market that's blown up in the last 20 years? Experimental. There are thousands of experimentals per year, and there's dozens of 172s per year. And it's a huge difference on what's making it to the market. So to read what Mr. Wendell Geek said, he said, part of the reason I think manufacturers are going to build cheaper airplanes is that LSA is not regulated nearly as tightly as normal category airplanes. And that's why this experimental world has really taken off. It's either been, to simplify, build in your garage or buy a crazy expensive 172. You have to be on a waiting list for 2 years and is the same as the one that came out 70 years ago, except for the avionics. So this is finding a middle ground in there. And,
well, I apologize for saying certificated. I meant to say certified aircraft.
Oh, geez,
and
I hate all those terms. Yeah.
Yeah, but I suppose I'm a skeptic. Whenever something comes up that seems possible to be cheaper and more affordable and more doable for people, then some way will be found. They still want their margins, or I don't know. It's who's going to step up and just go, we can give you a heck of an airplane at a fraction of the cost because of the reasons that Mark was just talking about.
So I think there's going to be ebbs and flows with this, in my opinion. I agree that the experimental market is going to go through the roof, but they face the same or maybe even more constraints in the production than Textron does, making 172s and 152 or 182s, whatever. They can only build so many kits for people to go out there to build themselves. I do think the buy-in cost is definitely going to be cheaper, but the demand is, now that they've opened up the floodgates, and I'm welcoming these floodgates to be open. I'm not being critical of it, but there's going to be a lot more people wanting to get their pilot's license. I
So
do believe that.
to clarify, the reason I talk about the experimental market doing really well is that now all these experimental manufacturers can fully build planes. So instead of them building quick build kits or build assist or really getting over this gray line, or it's this sketchy line of what is 51% as one manufacturer does, you can just build them all from the factory.
I
and
agree with
sell.
that, but they can't build it. They can't do the Henry Ford and start
No.
pumping out lots of airplanes. I'm afraid. Here's my overall picture. There's going to be a ton of pilots in the next 2 to 3 years flying under sport pilot or not. But I think the barrier to entry has been lowered, and I think that's a great thing. But the problem is the number of airplanes they're going to be able to fly
Mhm.
and or buy. That's, to me, I think it's still going to be inflated for a while until we start getting some heavy manufacturing out of the experimental market, because there's no question servicing, avionics, maintenance, all of it, new engine options, Rotax, and more that are coming out. They're built to last longer. The operating costs are going to be coming down. It's still just going to invite more and more people, and I'm just fearful of the demand, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I guess I don't look at it from the demand side of it, that it's like all of a sudden there's going to be 3 times as many pilots training. It's like, I don't know. I don't see that's going to change very much. We're out of the post-COVID peak where people like Brian and I trained, and the schools are crazy busy. And now they're busy, but they're not crazy busy like that anymore.
But you
And
don't think there's people that have been sitting on the sideline saying, "I know I can't get a medical, but I
there's
can
some
now
for
fly
sure.
with."
I just don't think that it's going to, be a light switch. I think it's going to be like a 10% change, that sort of thing. But for me, what I see is how we can, how the entire aircraft side of the market can get bigger. And no matter what happens to the number of pilots coming in or the number of pilots that continue flying who wouldn't have otherwise, there is supply and demand is always going to be a problem, and who knows what that's going to do, right? I don't think that it's going to cause prices of 4-seaters to blow up. There just aren't that many sport pilots to change that demand. The only thing that really affects is that my 2-seater goes down in price. So, which I knew 2 years ago when I bought it. That's kind of built into this whole thing. But there are some other changes in there. This is not going to be, a new one rolls off the line every 2 minutes or something like that. But how amazing is that to consider that there might be 10 new ones per month from a manufacturer? 10 per month is wild. Like, those are numbers that we haven't seen outside of Cirrus, Sling, Cub Crafters, right? Like, Cub Crafters, I think, builds one every 30 hours, or tries to. So even small improvements in numbers is huge. Not blasting these things out, at that same speed. But yeah, that's what I see. And the other thing that I see, and people always get confused and think that I've got an experimental, and it's like, well, I can actually. I'm ignoring Zach here. I can convert my plane to experimental, and so maybe that's part of why people think it is experimental. But the other thing is, a lot of the compliance is actually closer to experimental. So if I was to put a G3X in mine, I don't have to put the certified version in. So you go from a $30,000 10-inch panel to a $10,000 10-inch panel. Those are like wild differences. I was literally today voting in MOSAIC on standards for propellers and constant speed props and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things they added in there was, it was like, okay, well, it has to meet these standards or already be certified to meet all of the existing standards. And the point is that it's like the regulatory hurdles to jump. There's multiples that you can that you can take. You can take the existing process that gets a propeller to the market, or you can use the light sport rules to get it out that has a lot of testing in it as well. So that's is what I'm hoping is gonna make a lot of difference. And again, part of it is increasing that supply. Part of it is getting rid of, I mean, again, that $30,000 to $10,000 difference of a G3X, right? Like that makes a huge difference in a plane.
It does. I want to hit a comment from the Banjo Pilot, who you can hear him on our previous podcast, but he mentions it'll put the certified manufacturers into a market with more competition. It has to be positive on the pricing side of that as well. I couldn't agree with that more. It's again, my wife and I are looking at our expenses and stuff as we do every so often, and the operating cost of my airplane has done nothing but go up every year because it's got an older engine, and it's just going to climb and climb. I need a new audio panel. I need new this. I need new that. Well, if mine was experimental, I would be looking at a price that was a third of what I'm going to pay, at least, if not more than a bigger reduction than that. So I am hopeful that these experimental guys that can now continue the production all the way through and start delivering airplanes, it's going to maybe put a pressure on the pricing of the certified market.
Yeah.
Do you think that there will be a point in the arc of change of all this over whatever amount of time that it is, where once there is enough new things happening that are approachable enough for people, that it will expedite the languishing of a lot of antique aircraft because the burden to getting them up to a particular standard is going to be so much more prohibitive?
Making it worse for old planes by having new planes around. Very likely.
You know,
Right.
where it's,
I mean,
it's
that
like,
makes
why
sense.
would I spend 5x, or 3, 4, 5x to keep this, whatever clapped out 182 together or whatever, when, I can, for just what I'd be using to upgrade the avionics in this thing and do a few other things I need to do and drop an engine in it, I could actually go get a completely new plane or something.
Sling. You're going to buy a new Sling.
Well,
Yeah.
I was thinking of Sling as well. Yeah. Think about these schools that are keeping older fleets running and are putting, I know multiple schools that put 2,000 hours a year on one plane, right? They can go out and buy a plane now, and you could buy a light sport until now, right? Like that was never a limitation, but they're a little on the fragile side. So, Sling Pilot Academy uses them. Thrust Flight used to use sport cruisers, but now that they can be built a little bigger, they're more durable planes. And so maybe that's what really helps, at least at first, right? Is these schools can go out and they don't have to buy planes from guys that have expired medicals and these things haven't flown for 10 years and they're getting them running again.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the difference. Of course, it's more money up front, but if you're flying 2,000 hours a year, it's easy to do that math. Yeah.
I'm still thinking about that Spirit SE2 airplane. I just think the one that burns 2 gallons of fuel, 100 miles an hour. I'm just, open cockpit. It's fine. That'll be fine.
Yeah.
One seater, great. Less people to, stare a cockpit all the time. That's great. No, there's so much just, I think, innovation and real change that is just right. I feel like things are just kind of bubbling up, and there's been a lot of things limited. And I'm just hoping that this is a bit of a floodgate opening to a lot of new things. We've talked a lot about the aircraft side of it. Ted, I want to hear some of your thoughts about the future from the pilot side. Because it's really easy just to go, okay, well, now you don't have to have a medical and you can do the thing, whatever. Like, that's really glossing over a lot. So talk to us about that a little bit.
Well, because there are more privileges, because a sport pilot can fly bigger planes, it makes it, if you were a school, it makes it a lot easier to say, we're going to put everyone through sport pilot. Some of those people are going to go back and get their medical. And I don't think that's really how it's going to work. The career-oriented ones are going to require medical up front. But I think a lot of these, the types of schools that I assume you guys walked into and that I walked into, that'd be the first question to ask is, are you going for a career or not? And even if your answer is, well, maybe in the future, you can still start as a sport pilot. There's nothing stopping that. And it's just that much less is going to get in the way, which helps them out. So I think that, I think that's the real benefit, is especially to schools and especially to people that aren't sure if their medical would pass or not, or don't even know, it's like, I know deep on all the antidepressant protocols and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I'm not the normal person, obviously. So people that know they've had something in their past, whether it's a stent in your heart or 2 antidepressants or so many things that could hold you back.
Kidney stone.
Kidney stone, ADHD.
A stint in your heart or a stint in Jamaica.
Yeah.
There's your show title.
Yeah. So yeah.
A stint on tour with the Grateful Dead.
So Zach said, everyone forgets about recreational pilots. Does MOSAIC affect them also? Handfuls of people anxiously waiting across America.
Yeah.
There are like 75 recreational pilots. I kid you not, 75. Sometimes there'll be like 6 per year that go through a check ride, but usually like 4 of those 6 fail. So I wish that it didn't even exist. It's a distraction.
Not
We've
the
already
people, the classification.
Exactly. Yes.
Ted loves everybody, just saying it
Right.
for the record.
Yeah. So,
Turns out they're all listeners.
I was hanging out with Chuck at Oshkosh, and he said it was challenging to find a school near me that had an LSA. Now flight schools can use the 172s they already have to offer a sport pilot. And there's, part of this is there's going to be such a lag in schools understanding what the options are here. My whole flying life as a sport pilot has been explaining what it is to people, including my DPE. So I kid you not.
Or the woman from the FAA that didn't understand that basic med is not something you can just go get before having a third class.
She was riding a tram in the wrong direction. That just says it all. So, so yeah, both sides of those are good, right? But I think what we really talked about that we wanted to kind of talk about in this episode was, how does this help a pilot who, our friends here that have the license and they're renting planes and they have ancient 6-packs on, what are your choices? Is there anything that this is going to do to improve that world?
I was just thinking we all have ancient 6-packs, really, if you think about it.
It's ancient 6-pack, another way of saying that you're kind of got a dad bod.
Yeah,
That's right.
I was just trying not to go there. And let me drink some more of this White Claw.
But the whole thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, Ted, we are now faced with it meant something different before MOSAIC to be a private pilot that is trying to think ahead, as we are all in midlife. Our health is not getting any better, generally speaking. Zach's comment here,
Yep.
Scenario, years from now, I'm older and confident that I won't pass another medical. Can I go to the FAA and request to quote unquote downgrade my PPL to a sport? Can you take a check ride and be dual private sport, et cetera? So that brings up so many questions. Do you need to be really smart about how you anticipate that timing? Because if you are denied a medical, then you cannot go get a sport.
What is your understanding about private to sport?
Me?
Sure.
My understanding is that I can call Ted at any time if I don't understand anything about it, and then otherwise I don't have to think about it. But I guess if I'm trying to think about what it means for me personally in any future, if I'm not ever in a position where, because if I'm not in a position where I've decided I'm definitely never going to fly professionally in any way, and that's just off the table. Let's just say, it's down the road here. I am on basic med now, really just for reasons of lack of hassle, more than anything else, because it doesn't exclude me from anything that I'm trying to do. Those requirements are actually, I think, quite generous.
Yep.
And it's annoying to have to take a medical so often. I would rather do it way less often. And then, I really like flying. I'd like to make sure I can keep flying. And it makes me nervous, just like it does everybody, to even be thinking about continuing my third class medical, because as soon as something goes sideways, then you are marked with an X, and then that's it. So I feel like I'm kind of hiding out a little. I don't have any health problems that I'm worried about, but I just know that, I'm not going to be a million times healthier in 20 years or something. So I'm just trying to figure out, is there a logical jumping off point that you should be anticipating? And as sport pilot privileges continue to be sort of kind of awesome and whatever, I can still fly the plane that I fly in, right? I don't have to, it's not a culture change or a aircraft change or anything. Is that something, when do you start thinking about that?
Yeah. Well, from a regulatory standpoint, do either how you fly as a sport pilot, as a private pilot?
You just say you're operating as a sport pilot.
Exactly. That's the key. So you don't have to take a check ride. You don't talk to the FAA. You wave a magic wand.
No, you just disappear.
You can exercise sport pilot privileges today, even with a medical.
That makes sense. Okay, sorry.
I don't even know with a medical why you would, but yes, the point is, let your basic med expire. Don't get them denied. You are now a sport pilot, or you are a private pilot exercising sport pilot privileges.
Okay, it's kind of like my dad used to always say, "Hey, Brian, do you want me to make you a milkshake?" And I'd say, "Yeah." He'd go, "Poof, you're a milkshake."
It reminds me of the episode from The Office when he walks to the office and he goes, "I declare bankruptcy. I declare I'm a sport pilot."
Yes.
Okay, well that's enlightening, because it's weird. That's a cognitive break for me, because I know that you can inherently operate at a lower, quote unquote, whatever set of privileges, but I never thought about it from the sense of, oh, well, you can just do that now.
Yeah.
You don't have to send a letter to somebody and be like, "I'd like to resign."
Yes.
Yeah.
And we had a phone a friend happen after the MOSAIC episode with someone saying, one of our people that you guys know, giving their age at one end of the midlife age range, and said, "If I became a sport pilot, could I fly my plane?" And they told me what their plane was. That's the question that everybody has. At some point, we're all going to get to continuing your medical being risky, and you still have health. You may not. You still have to self-evaluate that you're fit to fly, right? That doesn't ever go away. But you get to a point where you say, what's the risk of renewing my medical versus flying as a sport pilot? So but yeah, it's great, because all you do is just wave the magic wand. Now you do have to have a driver's license. So, don't mess that up too much. Also, don't drive to the airport, stop at the coffee shop that's right next to the airport, go to pay for it and realize you don't have your wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Tap to pay for the coffee was fine. I had to drive all the way back home to get my driver's license, because legally I can't fly without my driver's license. Yeah, which is different for me.
So Adam's question: can a private pilot exercise sport pilot privileges at night? There's a few other fewer privileges, right?
Yes. Let's talk about what the downgrade from basic med to sport is. And this isn't accurate. This isn't fully accurate, but roughly speaking, if you drop your medical and your basic med, you cannot fly at night. You must have a basic med to fly at night. Now, I don't know why you'd exercise as sport if you have basic med, but you have to have that to fly at night. Also, you cannot fly instrument. So no no IFR, IMC flying as a sport pilot. You're also limited to 2 seats in use. So you can fly a 4-seater, you can only have 1 passenger. Also, you cannot have a second pilot that you declare is your co-pilot and have a third person sitting in the back. They made sure to imply that that is not allowed. One of our people in this crowd had that suggestion, and once I read deeper into it, I was like, oh, they covered that already. Yeah,
You'd
it's
only
too
be
bad.
in the, and that would also prohibit you from flying anything that has a required crew,
Yeah. I believe so. That would be interesting
right?
if
That's what I'm wondering. Is like if it is a
I mean, honestly, you're not going to have a 2-pilot certified airplane that's going to fit the category for a sport pilot.
I mean, 59 knots clean. Like,
I
You
think
got
we just
King Air can
yeah.
well, you can't have multi.
That's
But what
multi.
about a
Pilatus?
Cessna 208?
That's a single pilot certified.
Is the 208? I thought the 208 was not and the 408 was, but okay.
I think it is.
Some King Airs, but
Yeah.
their speed's a little high. Maybe this is what you find out. You know, Sling is going to hear this podcast and go, guys, I've got an idea.
We're going to
Required.
increase the amount of people that sport pilot can take by having a 2-pilot certified high wing that require 2 sport pilots to fly it.
Isn't there some part of you just feels like as much of wrangling as all this is, at some point in 15, 20 years, they're just going to go, whoever wants to fly, just go ahead and do it.
Well,
We don't care anymore.
So I do have a serious question, and it's kind of around that. Do you think, and this goes to both of you, y'all have been in aviation long enough. Do you think we will see reforms to the medical side of this in the next 10 years in a similar fashion that they've overhauled this the sport pilot piece?
So there have been some changes in the last year. Last summer actually was kind of positive for about every month they were adding a medication that was allowed and doing that type of thing. And it was kind of amazing. The NTSB came out with I'll put this in the notes. It's like a recommendation of like 24 things that the FAA needs to take care of for pilot mental health. And it's things related to getting your medical and keeping your medical that because the FAA is kind of based in 1950, they kind of have wrong. And, they won't necessarily follow all that, but the point that that's out there and that FAA has to address that is interesting. The other thing that happened, and I'll mention this one, is a couple months ago, there was a pilot or a prospective pilot who was on a disallowed antidepressant, and FAA said, we don't allow that one because it can cause drowsiness. The guy's like, I've been taking it for 5 years. I have no drowsiness, and I can prove it. And the FAA came back and said, yeah, we don't allow that medicine. So it went to a court case, and the judge said, no, FAA, you're wrong. That is arbitrary and capricious, their words, to not allow it because you said you can take an antidepressant as long as it didn't cause drowsiness. He proved it doesn't cause drowsiness in him. And then you said no. I'm optimistic that that'll cause a change. Those types of things are how pressure is put on the FAA. And that helps me out, but it helps out a lot of people. The biggest one, obviously, is people our age, and especially younger than us, that are diagnosed ADHD. And the amount of effort to pass a medical with that is insane. And
the administrative overhead is not even sustainable for an organization that is being sort of hamstrung anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they remember they changed the registration time frame?
Yeah. From 1 year to 3?
Yeah, or whatever,
Yeah.
They drastically, and there's no, it was just so clear that it was just an administrative overhead measure to try to temper that. It was a release valve for just administrative work is really all it was, which I think that in the end, as the biases around mental health and the awareness and the sheer, breadth of all of that, there's just been a long-standing change over the course of our lifetimes and how all of that is looked at, how it's addressed, how it's categorized,
Yep.
all of that. And it's just, the bureaucracies are slow to adapt. But when you're a bureaucracy that is operating from a fear of liability standpoint that is wild,
Right.
and understandably, then you just have to be hard correcting, and that's just it's gonna have to ease up, and it's not gonna be based in some moral awakening or some sort of. It's not gonna be based on any. It's not gonna happen because it's some sort of common good.
Yeah.
It's going
It's
to
not
be.
going to be. It's not going to be altruistic.
Yeah.
It's, here's the reason. Here's your perfect example.
We're tired of dealing with this.
Yeah, One Dull Geek says they also changed the CFI certificate to not include an expiration date, so that the FAA didn't have to keep printing plastic cards.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because, by the way, guys, I love the FAA. Don't you guys love the FAA?
I absolutely love the FAA.
I have had nothing but good experiences with the FAA.
It's just,
Yes.
it's, you know what I mean? I just feel bad for them. They're trying so hard. So,
So
yeah.
from the medical standpoint, my AeroGlass in the background is going interesting. So the phrase about IBM used to be, because buying IBM mainframes was expensive, but it was nobody got fired for buying an IBM. The point was you got fired for buying the off-brand that wasn't compatible. The same thing's true with FAA medicals, right? You're not getting fired from the FAA. You're not getting in trouble if you deny too many pilots. You get in trouble for the one that you allow that you shouldn't have allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Why would they want to, this isn't the right phrase, but why would they want to lower their standards? There's no upside for them. So that's the difference that I see, and the incentive that they have versus our incentive.
There's no incentive to basically put it, but they are our friends. They're listening. We love you guys.
We're just so glad they're listening. It means a lot.
There's going to be a ramp check at John Toon, at McCollum, at Troutdale.
Oh man, yeah.
So no, it's just been a great discussion. I'm glad that we had an opportunity to dive deeper on this. And for all of those that are in the chat that have hung around for this double header, yes, I said it. We did a double header tonight. We appreciate you. I want to remind everybody, leave us a 5-star review. It will get read on the air.
Please.
As long as it's, I'm not going to say it has to be G-rated, but let's keep it PG-13.
You can leave a 5-star review and just completely trash this podcast. It's fine.
We're still going to read it. The 5 stars is what we really care about. But
and if you have R-rated feedback, you can still send it in. We'll enjoy it. We will not read it on the air. Yeah.
You can join us on Monday nights, typically at 8 p.m. YouTube.com/@Midlife Pilot Podcast. So give us a follow, guys. Is there anything else on your mind that we should cover here?
No, just thanks again, Ted, for being our guiding light through the mosaic of confusion.
Yeah, and write in with questions and ideas. I'd like to hear people's theories on how the aviation market may change because of this. So yeah.
Very good. I love it that right here at the end, our friend One Dull Geek has to pour a little salt on the wound and let me know that the Brewers have swept the Braves. You know what? Kick a man while he's down. Go for it. Exactly. Thank you, Zach. As if sweeping the Braves is a big accomplishment this season. All right. So tonight's wisdom. We're going to step outside of the aviation fold and kind of go back old school. A clear conscience is often a sign of a really bad memory. Signing off, episode 142 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.